Hello, viewers. Welcome to my presentation. Today we will be discussing the attractiveness of the presidents, in my opinion. This presentation is structured as a hot or not sort of deal. So let's begin. We of course have to start with the man, the myth, the legend, George Washington. George Washington, I believe, was an attractive man. He's hot. Washington was a strapping built, charming middle-aged man. True definition of a silver fox. This painting specifically paints him in a pun intended, in a very, very strong light, I would say. Moving on to John Adams. Look at him. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate what's going on right here. John Adams is not attractive in my opinion. Look at that hairline. Adams was a pudgy, pathetic excuse of a man. His crooked nose does not help his situation either. Of course, we have Thomas Jefferson III. Jefferson, he has a jawline that could cut glass. You know, he's strong features, stern eyes. What's not to love, except the hairstyle. However, there have been some recreations of Jefferson that have given him a more modern hairstyle, and I think those are much better. However, we are looking at the presidents at the time they were in office, or I guess at the time that these portraits were taken or made of them. So, you know, we got a little bit of a disparage there, because some of these guys, they were very attractive young men, right? Next we have James Madison. Now this one is kind of I could see where maybe I'm in the minority or minority here. I put him as attractive. However, Madison does remind me of the bird from the Muppets. You know, the blue one. I think his name is Sam Eagle. In a good way, though. I think really what's holding him back is the hairstyle. He might have been top 10 if he had a different hairstyle, but you know, as we see it, he's not so much. You know. Of course, after him we have James Monroe. Monroe's a loser. You know, his hairline is not very good. He's unflattered, and I don't think the nose fits the face shape here. And I think his cleft chin in this particular portrait is too defined. He kind of looks like he'd be on a list somewhere, but you know, that's neither here nor there. That's not really what we're talking about here. Next after that is John Quincy Adams. You know, a great man. He has a great political resume. I don't actually know anything about his politics or anything like that. I didn't research the presidents for this, only their portraits. Well, Quincy Adams kind of looks like a cartoonishly evil mad scientist from the 1960s. He's a bit creepy. Sad little man, I would say. Sad little man. After we have, of course, Andrew Jackson, and, you know, I can't shake the fact that Andrew Jackson looks vaguely similar to Jeffrey Epstein, except with bushier eyebrows, and, you know, fuller hair. I like the hair. It looks like it's very nice. However, you know, I can't push past that Epstein thing, so we're just going to move on. Well, I don't even need to explain for this one. I think we can all see what's wrong here. William Henry Harrison kind of looks like Butter Patapim. He has a really long nose, a squished neck, and I don't like the hairline. The hairlines on the presidents aren't very. That's cracked my knuckle. Hairlines on the presidents aren't very good. I've discovered. However, it's especially bad on William Henry Harrison. Yeah. Next we have John Tyler, and John Tyler, he's good potential. He's not a bad-looking man. And a lot of these guys aren't bad-looking men. They're just not my thing, you know, not what I would consider attractive. So, but John Tyler, he's got good potential, but he looks kind of like a snapping turtle, and I don't like that. So, you know, not attractive. James Polk, you know, this one I'm also sort of probably in the minority here. But you know, he has an attractive facial structure. You know, he's got a strong jaw. He's got stern eyes. His chest seems to be like he's puffing out his chest. He has confidence, and he seems strong. You know, I don't know where he's looking in this portrait, but you know, Zachary Taylor kind of looks like he's melting. I don't like it. You know, I don't like the way he's looking at me, like I did something, So, not in my book would I consider this attractive. However, Millard Fillmore, he kind of looks like Alec Baldwin, but like him now, Like if you go back and watch like Beetlejuice and like when he was like young and hot, that's not the Alec Baldwin I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of like the Alec Baldwin of as of 2025, right? Minus the potential murder charge. I don't know how that ended up. That's neither here nor there. That's not what this video is about. Next up is Franklin Pierce. Pierce was a terrible man. I do know that much. I do know that Pierce was a terrible man. However, we're not taking that into account here. He's the first emo boy president. He's got a strong facial structure. He's attractive pose in this portrait. I'd say he's an attractive man. James Buchanan. Abraham Lincoln. He's got very nice cheekbones, iconic beard. He kind of looks like Bill Nye without the beard. That's not a bad thing though. Like Bill Nye is not a bad looking man, or was. Well, he still is not a bad looking. He's still alive, but he like Lincoln looks more similar to Bill Nye when he was a younger man. However, that's not a bad thing, as I said. Andrew Johnson. He's an evil little man. Look at his scowl. Okay, maybe I think I went a little overboard here, but the haircut's also really bad. Look at the bob. I don't like the bob. Well, actually, maybe I didn't, because he is dead. Yeah. Ulysses S. Grant is a rugged, manly man. He looks like he'd be very awkward. He was very awkward, but he looks like he'd be silly. I like silliness. Yeah. Rutherford Beard Hayes, I guess is what I'm calling him now. I don't like him. He needs some better grooming on the beard, and he's just not my type. Yeah. James Garfield. I think if I remember correctly, there's like a drought of like presidents who are attractive here, or at least who I've considered attractive. I was gonna say he's hot because he has the same name as the funny orange cat man, Garfield. Haha. But I'm just not a fan. He looks like a wax sculpture, and I'm not into it. This guy's a nerd. He looks like he'd get his lunch money stolen, and nobody's ever heard of him. Yeah. Grover Cleveland. I can't really explain this one. I just think he has a great style. Like, look at that bow tie. He looks sort of German. And I'm kind of into that. And he commands a powerful presence. He's stylish. He's got the mustache could be groomed a little more, but I like the way it is. The hairline's not that great, but he has stern eyes, and he's just very stylish. He's a very stylish man. Next up, we got Benjamin Harrison. He looks nice. He looks like he'd be a nice old man. He's a little too British, in facial structure. And that dead, sad look in his eyes. Perhaps he would be a preference to our English neighbors across the pond, but not for me. I feel like he looks like he'd be like a nice guy to play chess with, but maybe not an attractive man in my opinion. Grover Cleveland the second time. How the mighty fall. Cleveland truly let himself go. His mustache has grown to be overgrown. And his eyebrows have grown out a little too much. His neck has become flabby, much flabbier than before, and his hairline has sunk in so far back it's basically in the Mariana Trench. His hairline wasn't great before, but now it's fallen even farther from grace. William McKinley. This one I don't even know why I put as hot, because I disagree with this one now. I feel like I'm fighting like my inner self here, but I don't necessarily agree with this one. Or maybe I do. Theodore Roosevelt, not only is he stylish in his dress, but he has that strong gaze. Look into his eyes and feel the heat, as I so eloquently put it. And he's a true embodiment of manliness. This man would kill a bear and wear its skin, but not if it's a baby bear, William Howard Taft is fat, lazy, stupid mustache, ugly hair. He has nice clothing, but look at the rest of him, man. It's tubble lard. Nuh-uh. No siree. Nada. Woodrow Wilson, there's a low quality picture here, but Woodrow Wilson, he's a nerd, right? But you can't deny his swagger. It's just a smug look, He knows he's cool. And if I were a woman named Ruth in the 1920s, and I saw Wilson across the room, I don't know if I'd be able to contain myself. That's all I'm saying. Not saying that I would do that, because I wouldn't. I'm but a 17 adolescent boy. However, I was just saying that if there were a woman named Ruth, maybe I misspoke by saying if there were a woman named Ruth, and she saw Wilson across the room, she would not be able to contain herself. Save that one. Warren G. Harding, no, he's a good looking man. Only complaint's the eyebrows. He's not hot though. There's a big difference between an attractive and a hot old man. The silver fox versus just the regular old guy, right? He's not a bad looking man. A lot of these guys aren't terrible looking men. They're not ugly, right? A lot of them anyway. I do think some of them are ugly. However, it's a question of preference. But I don't think they're ugly a lot of them. But not hot, Calvin Coolidge, I also heard that this guy's a terrible man. He looks like a Bond villain, a Fortune 500 CEO. Like I said here, a Fortune 500 CEO or a Fortune 500 villain in an action film. And we all know how hot those guys tend to be. What a handsome devil he is. And truly is the devil. Herbert Hoover, he does look like he's sculpted out of Play-Doh. I'm not a fan personally. And yes, I do think my opinion is probably being skewed a little bit by his personality. Me no likey though. I don't think he's that great looking of a guy. He kind of looks angry, all the time. Probably was angry all the time. Franklin Roosevelt, he had polio, so he gets a couple points knocked off. But look at this guy. What's not to love? A beautiful smile, nice features. Great all around. Look at him. Harry Truman is a nerd. Dwight D. Eisenhower is a bug-eyed old man, and he looks like a fish kind of turned into a human, and I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. John F. Kennedy is widely considered to be the most good-looking president, and for good reason. He's a classic 60s young man, pretty solid, not the best. However, you can't deny that he's a good-looking guy. Lyndon B. Johnson was a flabby man. He had big ears. Not my thing, not my thing. I don't like the way he's looking at me right now. I'm gonna move past that. Richard Nixon, he had a great voice. He had a great voice. He had a vaguely pear-shaped face, and he's very sweaty looking a lot. A lot of the videos I've seen of him, he's very sweaty looking. I'm not a fan of the protruding jowls at the bottom of his face. However, there's no however to that. I'm just talking. Gerald Ford, he looks AI generated. I don't like those teeth. Denture looking, and that hairline is not it, It's a step or two from being a Mao Zedong. Jimmy Carter, he looks like a nice guy. He looks like just a nice guy that won't cheat you. But nice guys finish last. So good amount of fear. Too average. Ronald Reagan, for being an old man, he's not bad. He has good hair, great teeth for his age. They might have been fake. We can't rule that possibility out. But he's not a bad looking man, especially for the age that he was. George H.W. Bush, you know, he looks nice, but he's not hot, you know. He's just a guy. I mean, what is there to say about that? Bill Clinton, he's got really white teeth, and he looks like a jock in a decom. He definitely had sexual relations with Monica. That's all I'm saying. But you know, that definitely happened. Just so we're on the same page. George H.W. Bush just kind of looks weird. You know, he also kind of looks like Bill Nye, but like not as good. You know, not in a good way. Not that Bill Nye is not. You know, I'm not trying to say anything about Bill Nye, but you know, like Bush, he just looks strange. Barack Obama, he's young, black, and gifted. Donald Trump, come over, spray tan, generally not what I look for in a man. Not that I look for men, you know, not that I'm like that way. You know, maybe I should have said not what women would look for in a man, you know. Not that I would know that, you know, I'm not a woman. But, just not my type, you know. Joe Biden, he's old, and, I mean, like, he's okay. I mean, he's not, like, ugly. Oh, and he has a huge forehead. Huge forehead. But he's not, like, ugly. He's just, like, not my thing, you know. And Donald Trump, he's just older, you know, and, like, he didn't improve. Like, he just got older. That's all I can really say. And he got less of a twinkle in that little eye of his. Or eyes. He has both of them, you know. And I think that's that's the end. Okay, yeah, that's it. Yeah, look at all of, yep. Okay. Yeah. So if you enjoyed that, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to never miss an upload. We'll be doing more of these in the future.